show, everyone. Good morning if you're on the West Coast. Good afternoon if you're on the East Coast. And if you're in between, maybe you're having lunch and just decide to turn on YouTube for a minute and see what's going on. But welcome to the show. I am Max, your host of the RHMax channel. We have a special guest today. We have Chrispyman in the house, aka Crispy, the author of hexfire.io, a hot website that's been blowing up lately. A lot of people have been using it. It's all over Twitter. Just the amount of data and different information you can get from it. Such a good place. There's all kinds of really good hex websites for pulling data, but this one's really got a lot of attention lately, just from all the sources you can pull from. And I'm very excited about it. I know there's a lot of people who want these stats. They want to be able to get this data. And, there's, again, a lot of different places to do it. I think Hexfire is one of those places you can clearly see a lot of the different stuff coming out. And we're going to talk, I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to get into specifics, but we're going to get into a whole bunch of different categories of stuff you can get more information on as far as looking at the data in the Hex and upcoming Pulse ecosystem too. I just want to say too, a lot of people have been saying they want to super chat to show, but they couldn't, especially when I'm live. Sorry about that. Again, I don't monetize the channel just based on my own personal principles. I don't want your money. I want to get free information. I want to make my own money, self-made man, all that type of stuff. So it's just my own. I just don't turn it on because of that, and I pretty strictly adhere to that. So if you want to support the channel, you don't donate to me. Don't try to give me super chats. Blah blah blah. Hit the sub button. That's a great way to support the channel. If you're already a sub, hit the like button. If you already liked the video, leave a comment after the video or on the clips and stuff like that. That helps us too. And then during the link or during the show, if you tweet out the link to the show and tag me and the guest, that also helps a lot. And I tend to like and retweet those after the show as well. So really appreciate it. Again, if you want to support, you can't give me money. That's by design, but you can certainly help in other ways that YouTube will allow you and things like that. So really appreciate it. The shows, we're coming up on a year. It'll be a year in like three months or so. So far so good. I appreciate it. All the support the show's gotten. I really do appreciate people just telling me, "Oh, I love these clips. Great guests. Bringing the alpha, all that stuff." That really, that really makes the clip hell, the thumb hell worth it. I had a tweet a while back that was like, I came up with the number of hours I spent on each episode, and it is around 4 hours, including the preparation time, scheduling, clipping, thumbnails, just the stream itself. A lot of that takes time and energy. So it's about 4 or 5 hours for each episode. So again, just throwing it out there. Stuff's not free. Please support people who create content that you like. In general, there's a lot of good ones in the community. So without further ado, let's bring in today's guest. Very excited. Hexfire.io founder. I'll just go with founder on that one. Chrispyman, welcome to RHMax.
Founder. Hey, man. Thanks.
Founder. Yeah. When's the free claim? When do we get Hexfire.io coins?
Well, I'd be lying if I didn't think about it once in a while, a joke. But
there was a postcard thing that did a airdrop or something. So it's not too far fetched. There's precedent for these type of things, I guess.
Yeah, I've worked on the side on a couple projects just with information, nothing really, doing development. But I think if I was going to do something, it'd be I'd try to focus on how to bring people into the community. Sounds familiar, right? That's what everybody says they're doing. Exactly. But no coins in the near future.
Just on the postcards things, that is a great marketing technique, and actually have a show with coming up with David James to talk hex marketing stuff. So that's a great way to get it out. Just in general, if you can send people postcards, especially in wealthy neighborhoods, people who are looking to get into new investments in crypto, that's a good way to do it.
Yeah, I guess I should say something about that too. The postcard effort, very good effort. I like it. I kind of took the whole sacrifice thing as tongue in cheek. Maybe somebody will do something in the future. Maybe they won't. They changed up their marketing on trying to get donations, right? And that's because when people ask for donations for things, you don't always get a lot of response, right?
It's true.
And so, anyways, so yeah, I'm in on the postcards. One of these days, I'll actually like order a whole setup myself and send it out. But
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, it's if you were to steel man the the airdrop and donation thing for postcards, it does get people excited because people love free coins, and it may get a lot of people involved who otherwise wouldn't, just if they weren't getting something back, or if they had no expectations to in the future possibly get some kind of airdrop. So it does wrangle the crowd. And then you funnel people into Telegram. I don't know. I try to stay away from Telegram as much as I can. Although I've seemed to be on there daily, even though I try to stay away from it. It's just a lot of wild stuff, a lot of Wild West in Telegram. But hey, I got to give credit. It is a marketing technique to get more people involved. So I hope in the end the means justify the effort for sure. And shout out to people who are spending energy doing postcards. That's the good work. That's the RH good community work right there. Again, everyone share the link. I know this is an early one. We're gonna get into some fun stuff. Just saying hi to the chat real quick. New to the community, welcome G Chambers. Welcome. All in. Not financial advice, but you're in the community that seems to care about making people rich more than any other one in a healthy way, in a healthy fashion. So as healthy as it can be in crypto. So yeah, I like Snip too. We were HEX. I was going to say this. I keep thinking like there's all these phrases I want to say on the show, and I always forget unless I write them down. But I wanted to get a good time to bring that up too. Be a Hexican.
I'm a Hexican.
Channel that positive energy. Heck, there's all kinds of anybody can be a Hexican. Be a Hexican. You can do it. Welcome, Sir Edwards. Appreciate it. Let's get into it. Let's get into just for people who aren't familiar with your background in crypto. Can you just go into how'd you come up with your name? How'd you get into crypto? How'd you find the Richard Hart community? How HexFire.io started, all that good stuff.
Oh, sure. Like a lot of people, man, I've been watching crypto for a long time, right? Ever since the white paper, and probably gave up the best chance to get in really early in Bitcoin. I actually contacted somebody a long time ago. I think this was probably 2015, trying to get Bitcoin. And I think even at that time, you get all the FUD that's out there about running the XEs and all that stuff. So I never went in that direction. And I got as far as, hey, put some cash in this envelope and send it to Canada, and we'll send you a paper wallet back. Right now, obviously today that would have been a great deal. Right. If looking backwards, we're like, wow, you really did that. You put $1,000 in the mail and you got a paper wallet back from Canada. That's awesome, because I would have gotten, however many Bitcoin for that. But sadly, I did not do that. But predating kind of going to crypto, around that time, I discovered the financial independence, retire early movement. And really loosely, all that is kind of organizing your life and budget in a way to reach your goals, your financial goals. Yeah. And it usually requires you to have some sort of delayed satisfaction and sacrifice, right? Pay down your bills, don't accumulate more debt, get more income, and save, right? So those types of things. And so I embarked on that, around 2014. And then around 2017, crypto was blowing up again. And so I started putting my toes in the water with Bitcoin and Tezos and, a few other tokens and coins, and then lived through the whole everything goes up forever phase, right? So every coin that you could imagine just went up and up and up, right, for no reason. And of course, there were no fundamentals on those, so a lot of them went down, never came back, right? Yeah. So around the same time, I started listening to Richard Hart, some of his videos. I kind of formed my original understanding of delayed gratification, 5-year time frames, DCA at that time, and that was also something that he talked about quite a bit, and others, right? So I was following him into that and got pissed as hell when he called the bottom, or the top, I should say, of Bitcoin, right? Got mad, right? Because man, it was just like this year. I mean, it's so ridiculous that this even happened twice, right? And I didn't pick up on it, right? Yeah. And then because when you're in the middle of these markets, you don't know even though everything's there to tell you and people give you advice, you don't necessarily hear it, right?
The euphoria is real. It cannot be underestimated.
It's crazy, right? I mean, but this, very similar thing happened. We got to the end of the year, prices were high, and everybody's like, "No, it's coming back. It's going to go." And then 2-3 months later, you confirm, I guess not, right? So now you get down. Anyways, during that period of time, I was DCA, which is king, right? Just what I could, when I could, and just went forward with that. So then fast forward, sure enough, first we had Bitcoin HEX. Well, maybe it was CFD first, but the idea
briefly CFD token.
Briefly CFD. I was interested in that. I kept pushing the button to get notified, on the website, and then of course that transformed into Bitcoin HEX, and then eventually HEX, right? And so I was able to do my own little free claims. I'm sad to say I didn't have hundreds of Bitcoins, but I had a little bit of Bitcoin, so I did my free claims. And then got on the adoption amplifier. But I'm super conservative, man. So I was like, my playing in the adoption amplifier, besides the first day where I had to foam a win with like 3 ETH, right? Besides that, every other day was like, oh, and this will sound funny to people, should I buy $10 worth of HEX on the adoption amplifier today? Like $10, man. Right?
No, I just on that too. I remember because I'd been following Richard for a couple of years before that even was a thing, and I remember thinking, because Richard, every live stream, this could change your life. Adoption amplifier is only open for so much longer. You can only get so much in. I remember thinking almost like, please stop. Like almost when I had this feeling of him being irresponsible. Like, are you serious? You really think this is going to work out? Because he had no track record back then. So even me, I would not even $10 worth. I was like, should you be telling people? Should you be this confident in it, telling people to put all this money into it every day? Got to get in before the amplifier day's over. All this stuff. Even then, back that's one thing I kicked myself for. So there you go, embarrassing story.
Well, it's true though, man. A lot of people just assume that because you're in the adoption amplifier, that everybody was brilliant and put thousands of dollars in, right? But I can't speak for other people, I guess, but I know there are some people that did very well, right? We obviously have some sharks, some super sharks. We got some whales out there that did really well. But you got to think, man. I mean, for some of those positions, you had to be willing to put 10, 20 grand in, right? To make those positions. And that's a lot of money to put into crypto that was new and brand new. Did it work out for them? It certainly did. Do I wish I did that? Sure. Plenty of times my wife tells me to shut up, stop talking about it. because today, oh yeah, man, it made perfect sense. But at the time, no. But anyways, so I did DCA. I'm happy with that position and how I did that. And and the guys will laugh. It was like $5 or $10. You're worried about putting that in. It was like 3 cents a transaction. So yeah, I kind of looked at it like, man, it was like almost a no-brainer, right? Put as much as you might spend in coffee for a day. Or maybe a little bit more, but a day and just go, and so that worked out real well. So that's how I got in. But then I had a, COVID hit, right? And it only kept my attention for about 44 days, right? And then COVID hit, and then I didn't really circle back around to participate in the adoption amplifier again until August. So I missed some pretty sweet opportunity during that period. But it fits with kind of like my thinking. Don't know if it's right or not, but let your winners run. I didn't know what was going to happen, so I got in. I did what I was willing to risk, and then when it started performing and looking like a different thing, and more time, more performance, I went in deeper. And then I just continued.
But where did the ETH go, Richard? But where did the ETH go?
Yeah, and people discount that, man. That was terrible. That was so terrible, right? That was almost like an off button when that started. Remember?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Go through that just for people who weren't around back then.
Yeah. So how do you present it? So you have this idea that this adoption amplifier, right? and you put in a certain amount of ETH, and whatever your percentage of ETH was for the day, you shared in whatever was going to be minted that day. Fantastic, right? Well, we finally got to a point where all of a sudden you started seeing, at a certain point in the day, 1,500, 2,000 ETH, coming through the adoption amplifier. So if you were in earlier in the day, all of a sudden, you weren't going to get as much minted, right? And so from a very vanilla, one-dimensional almost kind of view, it's like, oh my God, this sucks. This has happened, right? And then some people did some analysis of that, and they felt, and they started publicizing it, that what was happening is the ETH was going through the adoption amplifier, being flushed and then sent back through again, right? And in fact, that may be what happened or not happened. I can't really, I couldn't definitively say it, but it appears to be so, right? But as always, right, that was believed to be like, oh, this is terrible, that's a bug. Well, it ended up being a feature. I think what a lot of people didn't understand at the time is that there was also, I wouldn't exactly call them bad actors, but there are people who were actively, arbitraging on the market, buying cheap on the through the adoption amplifier, selling for a profit, coming back in, going back into the adoption amplifier. And so in part anyways, and this is after the fact, people thought this, right? That was a way to minimize that, shut that down. But yeah, there's a lot of history with that adoption amplifier stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting how a lot of this, because I think the name of the game, especially with the OA, is just, it's a hex holder's best friend. Yeah, they want to make moves in their best interest. And when you want to go, when you look at the history, the first year in hex and things like that, you got to believe whatever moves that were made by the OA, by the, whoever in control, the flush addresses, things like that, they were in the best interest of hex holders for the future, building this foundation through the first year, through adoption amplifier, through the free claims, through all that stuff. So I definitely love the transparency, the analysis that people have done on in the past. But I think the conclusion, I've talked about this before, of narrative being more powerful and even better for you in a lot of different ways than the truth. You can find the truth, like coming from an engineering type background, you want the truth. You want, 1 + 1 = 2. You want all the facts, and you're like, okay, this is what happened. But if you look at the narrative, like if you look at, how this product is meant to enable you to live life free of things you don't want to do, if you're able to commit to it and make profit from it and make the right moves, then a lot of that stuff, like, does it even matter? Does it even matter to the average person? And as you said, is it a feature? Was moves made that may look, interesting or noteworthy at the time, were they just like, oh, that was just part of the plan to make sure, the system is as strong as possible? I think you can make a case for that too.
Well, yeah, and I think coming out of that as well, you kind of separated the believers from the non-believers, right? So if you were going to fall into the category of that was enough FUD to not participate any longer, then you stopped participating, right? And you did not stick, and so do you want, the numbers were small at the time, so I don't even know how many people were participating, but do you want 5,000 believers, or do you want 10,000 people that don't believe? And it really kind of fine-tuned that, but you can see that through the development early days of the Hex community. Over and over again, you just refined until we had a very strong core group of people that really felt very similar about how to proceed. And you still see that today with people looking at quote unquote maxis, and what their thinking is.
Yeah. I mean, when you're building a system, you want the strongest whales possible. And how do you do that? You build them up from the very beginning. You give them incentive to, I'm not saying never sell, but you give them incentive to, hey, be around for a while, be benevolent as possible. Obviously, not all whales follow that plan to the 15-year mark, but no, I think it was all part of the plan. I gotta say, this is I don't think there's been too many surprises as the last 3 years as far as Hex goes, from just building a resilient system, building an anti-fragile system for even not just saying market conditions, not saying it's decorrelated or anything yet, but just the ability to make a system that has all these interesting features and whales and protections in place. I don't know. I don't see anything else like it. I've never seen anything like it before. And I went through all the shit coins. I went through all the 2017. I've been in crypto since 2016. So all that stuff, all the promises, nothing compares.
Oh yeah, Linda coin,
EOS.
EOS.
I remember Linda's sister.
There's so many different coins.
Linda coin. I remember Linda.
And yeah.
Linda too. Linda's sister. So funny. I got a question from Crypto Fuel. I don't know. That's something I wanted to ask you too. Like, do you follow Hedron, Maximus, the derivatives? Like, do you get into projects like that as well?
Yeah, I do follow that. Now, so I'll kind of go back a little bit on this. So I would probably be best described as a hex maxi, but at the same time, I'm a degen, right? Because almost all of us got into this to start with. Maybe there's one guy out there that didn't get into it thinking they're going to make make $1 million, right? And weren't chasing money. But so I'm a little bit degen in that I do fall into that category at times to do some different things. Now, one of the best things that I ever did was stop doing any type of trading, stop getting involved in all these other things just because some new guy or lady said, "Hey, this is great," and concentrated on my hex bags. So that really helped me a lot. All right. So why do I say that? So I kind of let's set the standards. So I'm in hex, right? But fast forward, how do you ignore the derivatives? Yeah. I don't see how it makes any sense or it's healthy to ignore them. So yes, I participate in Maximus, a little bit less than Hadron, but because I have to go buy Maximus, right? And with Hadron, I had gotten my Hadron for free. So I do participate in Hadron, ICOSA,
Are you a
HS,
degen for the new projects coming out? You degen for these?
Which one?
Oh, Pulse and PulseX.
Oh yeah. Oh come on. Yeah. And yeah, that's.
You said Hex Maxi. I'm holding you to it.
Yeah. Well, Hex Pulse Maxi, man. Yeah. I'm excited about that. I forget. See, that's so even we're talking about. I forget that I even did that. And and that funny. And I followed my I wouldn't say advice, but I followed the signs at the time, right? I got a sweet deal because I was accumulating below 1% or 1 cent in hex, and then in the 2 cent range as we were getting through that announcement. So I was able to accumulate some SAC stuff. So when people say, "Oh, all those guys who bought hex and SAC'd it did really great," it's really true, right? Now. I screwed up the finish on this, but in the beginning, if I think I maybe got all my hex at something like 3.5 cents, as a cost average that was going to use for sacrifice, and then went all the way up to 20 cents. So if you had allocated $10,000, right, to sacrifice, now you're at 70 grand, right? Provided you got it. Yeah, provided you got in at the 20 cents, which sadly I did not, but I still did. Yeah. I did fine because again, that was another game to play to try to figure out when the right time was to sack, and I had the advice right up front, the best advice from Mr. David Feeder.
Shout out to Feeder, the Federation.
Yeah, and I took his advice 20%, with go right in the first day. I should have just done that. And that would have saved myself a whole lot of headache. But anyways, I digress.
The PulseX sacrifice times. It's something there's a lot of bad memories for lots of people who were just waiting. They wanted to have that delayed wait, and they're like, it just kept going down.
Yep. Again, and so that worked out for me. The reason I say it was successful for me is, I was able to DCA through that process, and I did. and that worked out
Nice.
fine. I mean, I'll be satisfied with whatever I get from it, if I get
Yeah,
anything
yeah,
from it. No expectations.
yeah. It's amazing. Like I remember going to a meetup a few months ago and just thinking about, we're talking about Pulse launch and all that stuff. Back when mid-May was a realistic target, and I remember saying, we're talking about that, and I was like, oh yeah, I totally forgot about all the hex stakes. You totally forget about like this whole other thing you have that like no matter what happens, you're good. You got both sides of the coin if you're sneaking hex and otherwise.
Yeah, yeah, and people, I understand why. So I'll tell you my little story about Big Payday. So I've come into hex in probably 3 waves, right? There was the beginning wave, there was the pre-Big Payday, there was post-Big Payday, and then there's since then, right? And it's so hard to, and it is hard sometimes just to believe, right? You got to believe. And it's particularly hard when everybody you would talk to who's not already a believer is going to tell you you shouldn't believe, right? And so you had to make your own decisions, do your own research. Coming into Big Payday, I held back on my bag, right? Why did I hold back on my bag? I held back because, oh man, there's going to be this dip, right? And, sure enough, there was a dip, but I would have been a lot better off. I just put it in beforehand. I would have gotten tons more before if I had done that, because I would have gotten basically the copy, call it a copy, would have got my Big Payday on a whole bunch more. And I didn't. Again, I'm okay with it because I chose that. That was my path. Well, I didn't do that this time with a sacrifice, man. I'm like, no. Now, of course, I was able to sacrifice because we were in early enough, right? And if I was looking to get into PulseChain today and I was starting to do, I would go straight to HEX, right? That's what I would do. I wouldn't fool around with, I'm going to buy it cheaper on the other end, because I really feel like what's probably going to happen is, this copy and something that looks sort of like combined parity, whatever the price is, with these huge staking engines in the background, just printing more hex on both chains. So anyways, you didn't ask that question, but that's kind of where I went in my head.
No, that's super. Yeah, I think just a Big Payday too. I think a lot of people, we're stop talking about bad things, but I think a lot of people also mistimed. They want to do the 1 year stake. Maybe they're off by a day. Maybe they're off by 2 days, or they got the numbers wrong just by a little bit, and they missed Big Payday. That happened to a lot of people too, unfortunately.
Yeah, that did happen. I think I can't remember if I had a stake before Big Payday. I have to go back and look. That was supposed to end, but this came up today in Twitter. Somebody was asking about emergency end staking stakes, which I never recommend, right? It's not like my primary recommendation, but prior to Big Payday, I had a number of stakes that I had planned for, a month after Big Payday, 3 months, 6 months, a year. And I did emergency end stake them before Big Payday. And the reason I did that, this is the other side of the coin, something smart I did maybe.
Sure.
but I did restake those and put them out very long, like 5, 7, 10 years, and increase my share rate and get Big Payday on that. So that turned out to be a good move.
For sure. Well, yeah, if you got stakes coming out to pre-Big Payday, hang on to those. Do not ES those.
Do not. No. I have and one of the tools I have up on the site is it's the emergency end stake calculator. You can go throw in your ladder address and go look at that, and then you can see at least what my estimate is for what you'd have to pay. And
nice.
And
Let's get into that. I just want to finish up this question real quick, and then we'll jump into HEXFire. But you have anything on this HEX the HEX hedge-on ratio today, sudden shift in price? Have you been following that? Have anything on that?
I don't. Let me look at the chart real quick. I don't follow the ratio as much. I'm following the price, right? And but yeah, I saw that people are saying, because there's trading between the two of those. We're in it looks like on Hadron, we're in pretty good territory. I mean, it's 397, so it's not bad. Not bad at all. but I have a very particular way that I'm handling my hadron. And it's not super popular maybe with people, but I do take my hadron and mint it periodically, harvest it, and swap it into hex. I've been very open about that, and from day one with talking with Alex, that's how I do it. That's what I do. Now,
Okay.
that doesn't mean that I don't like those protocols. I do. It's just my method of trying to diversify my risk. But you guys got to understand too, or people got to understand that when you're talking about some of the larger wallets, and somebody's got let's say somebody really did go claim, their 10x, and they got 1,000 wallets, or not 1,000 wallets, but 1,000 T shares. You got a lot of hadron that's out there that gets minted to those addresses, and so it's got to go somewhere, And I think
Go into a staking pool.
Let's go. And initially, where was it going to go? It's either going to sit and it's dormant, asset, or then you could actually swap it, right? So you swap it out for hex if you wanted to. Now you can stake it. And there was a brief period of time where I believe you could have used it for Wattses, which would have been a brainiac move as well. That's the I think you know what those are. You guys were talking about yesterday.
Yeah, what's NFTs?
Yeah, the NFTs.
DeFi NFTs, I like to call them.
Yeah. I mean, so that now there's a whole bunch of different things you can do, and it's come along really well. So I like
nice.
that.
Yeah, I mean, if you want hex, that you're totally within your prerogative. I never look down on anyone who wants to get more hex, no matter what, no matter what's going on. Hex, it all starts with hex. It all ends with hex. I love Hedron. I love Maximus, all the derivatives, but it starts and ends with hex, and that's why the derivatives are built on hex.
Well, yeah, and plus there's got to be reasons behind what you do too. I think when I make a decision, I should have a reason for it, not just because, right? And so I did, as I understood more about what was going to happen with the buybacks and the auctions, I've started to accumulate my hadron, right? And so I'm not swapping it out. And there's obvious reasons for that, is to participate in auctions if it makes sense, or otherwise, And I've really been in that area. I've been really intrigued with just how ICOSA may track and is tracking, and you guys were showing this on the charts too, but tracking to the ceiling prices, because that's a very intriguing idea. Right, that it's a derivative market where you could never sell hex, right, and only lock hex up, and that would be a very positive move for everyone, particularly if it's self-reinforcing.
Sure. Yeah, you want to bring up the Hexfire and go through some of the things?
Yeah, sure. I'm a little wordy, man. I talk too much. You slap me around.
Great conversation, man. I love it. I love hex history. I love just talking about strategies and different things you're working on. It's all good stuff.
Yeah, dude, I could talk about hex and this stuff for days, probably. We did for a while.
At least the next 45 minutes.
Yeah. All right. Let me know when you guys can see this screen.
Boom.
All right, looking okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, looks great.
All right, and we're side by side. So I'm only running one monitor at the moment, so I'm just gonna switch over. These guys will see me on screen, but I might forget that I'm actually on camera. That's what happens. You get old.
No worries.
All right. So a lot of people asked, how did this all come about? So I mentioned fire, right? And hex. So what's the whole idea? Man, I'm like everybody else. I want to take care of my family. I want to do good stuff in my community. I want to help other people. I don't want I'd have a boot on my neck for the rest of my life. Doesn't mean I don't want to work, man. I work some days, 12, 15 hours a day. I'm just not working for somebody else,
On your time.
Yeah, it's my time. Actually, it's kind of funny because I can waste as much time as I want now on building stuff like this. So I kind of connected the idea, and so here, when you start looking at, I'll get to a video like this. I'll build on this eventually, and you can find other people talk about this. But generally speaking, traditional markets, right? You want to know how to be financially independent. Multiply how much you need a year by 25. And that's how much money you need in assets, earning interest at or yield at historic rates so that you can produce enough income that you do like a 4% withdrawal per year. And you never run out, right? That's the basic idea, 25x thumb rule. And that's on a 4% yield, right? And that's because when you look back historically over the stock market, nobody knows what's going to happen in the future, so you can't tell. But you look back at the stock market and you say, well, a 4% withdrawal rate per year, 99% of the time you'd be likely that you'll never eat into your principal, and you'll always generate your 4% per year, right? So that's a 25x rule. So I'm combining the idea, and I'm probably not the only one thinking about it this way, but I combine the idea of HEX and FIRE in that with HEX at the moment, I could do the same thing with 3 times less capital, which means I can retire early 3 times faster, using HEX than I could in the traditional markets. Why? Because on average, if you stake very short term, not talking about mad gains, price appreciation, you can get about 1% a month, which is about 12% a year. So this is earth shattering, man. You're telling people that you can earn 3 times as much at the bare minimum by going into HEX, right? And so that's the genesis for HEX FIRE as a concept for me.
Amazing.
Right. Use HEX, use yield generation, right, to fund your financial goals, right? So that's how I got the HEX FIRE. And then for the content, right now, that don't sound like a whole lot of fancy charts. It's because I like fancy charts and all this detail that I get into it. And so I will build out more resources that have less to do with charts and whatnot. But these are the charts that you see on the screen that I bring up. These are things I was doing by myself, right? I was doing them in Excel, downloading data and all that. And I just took my past expertise and brought it together to give a presentation of the data. And kind of like we were talking about off screen and then a few minutes ago, wanted to do it in a way that I could share as much data as possible for free. Now this, getting the data other than my time is free, right? And I got to pay for web hosting and junk and license and stuff, but I'm trying to get it so that just like a lot of the other tools that we have, because this is our standard, right? We want this information to be available to people, because the more sources where you can verify what's going on with our community, our system, the better, right? It just proves out, what we've been saying all along. And the dependability. So that got me to probably was it May that we had the big increase this year, 700, and April, May time frame, I forget the date. And man, I had ended a stake and I had accumulated some HEX, and I didn't see that 700 increase coming, and so I didn't stake before it happened. And it wasn't a lot. It's the grand scheme of things is what, 3% at the time, maybe 3-4% increase in share rate. But I was like, there has to be a way for me to know, right, that one of these is coming. And that's how we ended up with the share rate.
Wow. And the share rate recently went up too. Can you just talk about like staking before the new share rate just went up, and like the day before, the day after, like what is the big difference to people?
Yeah, sure. In fact, so I'm at the front page of this. So I'm going to go into the chart section so I have a little bit more control in the estimated share rates. And you can see we have a date range up here. That's there. And basically, before I change the dates on here, what I'm doing is for each day, we know what stakes are still open in the future. And every stake that's open when it ends, when somebody ends it, it runs a new function called the new share rate function. And the results of that are either the new share rate is higher than the current share rate or it's lower. If it's higher, it resets the share rate. Okay. So what I do is within the data set, I compute what the expected payouts are going to be for every stake that's out there, and then run that calculation so I can estimate what the share rate may be in the future. But the number itself isn't super important. It's more about when the steps take place, because the numbers are going to change. They're always going to change. And that's because the payouts change every day. And I use the 180-day moving average at the moment to calculate for the future. For that reason, because I don't know what it's going to be. I know the numbers won't be right, but like when we get out here to November of 23, I know that there's some stakes that could end that will increase the rates very high, right?
So how does that work? Yeah, can you just talk about the stakes ending? How does that affect the share rate?
Sure. Let me throw a date in here. Let's go to 1/2022, and we'll just look at the end of this year. So you can see what this looks like right at the moment. The red over here is the actuals. Okay, and then we have the estimated NSR running alongside of it. So they should mirror each other normally. So when a stake ends, the way the system works, which is part of the contract, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's just math, right? So there's no magic on my part. But when you end a stake, you get your principal back. Let's say you end it on time. You get your principal back plus your yield. All right. And that's your total payout. When you have that total payout, what the system does is it says, listen, if this staker restakes all of their HEX for the same number of days, they cannot get any more T-shares, right? So that's what the calculation does. So it makes it so that every time each individual stake comes up, it wants to make sure that it's more expensive, even if you restake all of your payout and yield, your entire payout, total payout, for the same number of days, you will not get more T-shares. I guess that's the best way I could say it. And and so sometimes it won't produce a change, right? And that's fine, right? Because the conditions were such for that stake that didn't produce a change. But other times it does. And as soon as one of the stakes makes a change, it gets applied to all new stakes. And so there are times, and we go look at the calc, I guess. There are times where the changes can be quite big. So I have an advanced analytics section here. I kind of hid this stuff away because I actually got some complaints that this stuff is too aggressive. Wow. And I get it, because people, there's a third of the people, man, they don't want to even have this conversation, and we'll look at it, and that's fine. And there's some that can give or take, but then there's another group of people, they're really interested. So you can go over here to this page, and it kind of explains exactly what the calculation is, and you can also go to the contract. This is actually taken out of the contract. This wording is in the contract. This is the calculation in the HEX contract. And so what you're doing is you're using the return, which is your complete payout. You actually go calculate your whatever bonus if you restaked it, and you're dividing it by the stake shares. And so when you go through this calculation, it'll give you the same, it'll give you what the new share rates will be. And so from that, what I'm able to do is look at each day in the future. You can see all these numbers here, and just what's the highest one for the day. If that one ends, that'll be the new rate. and sometimes it goes flat, you know. So this is a calculation by day. This one is just summarizing by month, and this one by year. And again, I'm less worried about whether it's, you know, 31,889 or 10 more. It's more about the magnitude of the changes. And so we can look into the system, and we know that a year from now, if you wait a year from now, you'll get 30% less in you know, in your buying power. You know, 27% less, 30% maybe, depending on what happens. And then if you wait 2 years, it'll be 55%, nearly 100% in 4 years from now, 2025.
So when new stakes, I mean, just trying to think of two of how, you know, are there big stakes that come out that can change the share rate based on some criteria? Maybe I missed that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so again, it's that calculation gets done for every stake. Okay. So it doesn't matter whether it's a big stake, little stake, you know, it really doesn't matter. It will get run. And you can actually go look here at the share rate changes to see what's going on. Because we all assumed in the beginning it would be very big stakes. There are a lot of misconceptions. We all assumed that we'd be very big stakes and the ones with the highest ROI. That isn't accurate. That isn't what happens. And we also thought they would be the longest ones because those would have the ROI. And that isn't what happens. What happens is every stake lives on its own merit. And so you have this stake right here, which looks like the last change. It was only 79,000 hex. I say only, but it was only stake for a day, you know, and it increased the rate by 6. And
the
that's
most impactful one-day stake ever.
Yeah, and there's smaller ones, I'm sure, you know. Now, the magnitude of that change, you know, you can look over here at the bars, right? The magnitude of change is very small, 6. But then we had this 547 one on 10/16, right? And so if you knew that this big change was coming and you were getting ready to stake the day before, right?
So what would it look at? What would it, you know, how big of a change would you notice? Just, you know, like the stake the day before versus, I missed it the day after. What would the change look like? You know, if you had, I don't know, you're staking 1 million hex or something like that for.
Yeah, it all depends on at the time. I think this was like a 2.5-3% loss, right? So, but just by having staked the day before, you would have 3% more yield.
3%. Okay.
Now, a lot of people like, that's not a big deal. It's only 3%. I couldn't be bothered. That's fine for you if that's how you feel. Don't be bothered with it. But for me, long term, that 3% might add up. If I'm doing a lot of staking, I plan to do ladders and I want to get in and out, then I want to know that information so I can get in a little bit before, because it just gives people a better deal, you know. And you can see them coming.
For sure. Okay.
So if we look, and so one way to look at that is to go back to that chart we had up here, and we go look at the dates. We saw this big change coming, right? We knew it was coming. So why not stake the day before? And if I was staking the day before, and let's say I don't normally recommend short staking, but people do that, right? I mean, there's reasons people do their staking activity the way they want to do it. If you are going to do it, and if you saw a big change coming in the future, but you plan to skim interest, well, end the stake before the big change, right? So you can skim your interest and get back in before the jump.
Right. And so this is just estimates, right? This is just based on, you know, we're kind of projecting the stakes based on the data we have, and we're, you know, maybe it looks like November 18th or something like that. It looks like the next one coming up.
Yeah, there's some interesting ones coming, and so that gets us to a good comment. So or a good explanation needed. These are estimated, and I can tell you pretty much that, you know, the estimate for the 25th is probably dead on, right? I mean, it might be 1 hex off or a quarter hex off, but the magnitude of the possibilities changes the longer you go out, right? Because we might have like a whole bunch of payout days up that'll drive it up. right? So
that's a good one too. I just want to mention. So it's always going up. These big jumps we're just looking at the big increases, right?
yeah. And this actually shows all of them, but I gotta make this thing sync at some point. I changed the screen to look at OA versus non-OA. So we're coming up and have passed this date right here, the 22nd. There's a stake that's OA related, and I don't expect that the OA will end this stake, because we had one that just passed and a couple of days ago might have increased us by a couple hundred, but the OA hasn't done anything, and so I'm guessing the OA won't do anything in November. But you never say never, right? Don't know. So when we get to this November 23rd, it could go up or it might not. If it does go up, it'll set the new base up here at 25,780. But that would require the OA ending its stakes on time.
Yeah, so the ideal is, or what a benevolent OA would do, would just let the stakes bleed out. Is that right?
Yeah, that's one theory. Sure. I mean, whether it's good, bad, indifferent, I don't know. But another thing that those stakes could be used for is to alter the inflation in the system. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities. I mean, I guess I couldn't guess what the motivation would be, but normal staking behavior is to end a stake on time and not let it bleed. But if it's a benevolent OA type of a thing, then maybe they want it to bleed, right? As it gives back to the staker class. But then you also have a group of people who may say, well, I'm not going to wait for that. I'm going to come and GA it because I can good account it, by GAing it early and distribute the T shares and increase the overall APY for everybody.
Okay.
A lot of interesting stuff with this.
Anything else on the share rate, or did you want to go into?
Yeah, let me throw this out to you. The other thing I'd bring up is this: you see how when you get to a higher level, we zoom out, it kind of looks like it's on a slope like this. But when you get out further, you see these flat spots that are here. What all that's saying is that in a large part are near-term changes to share rate. They're being affected by short-term stakers. And so before this last big change that we had, it looked like flat steps everywhere. But when you approach one of these flat steps, this bubble keeps getting in the way. Anyways, when you approach one of these flat step ups here like this, what will happen is people will come in after the new share rate is set, and based on the rules, right, and the calculation, they will be increasing the share rate on top of it. So in the end, you'll never see flat steps like this. You'll always see, as long as people are staking, you'll always see a gradual incline. And so when we get to one of these steps, it's not like the estimate is it's going to stay at this value the whole time. What'll happen is it'll fill in, and you'll see that the shape of the curve will go up and just kind of fill in this whole thing until we get that change, much like we can see here on this one.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and believe me, I know I'm probably not doing a great job of explaining this.
No,
so
you are.
The too long, the too long don't read is share rate always goes up. I proved it.
Yeah.
But 1,000 other people proved it before. If you're looking to get a little bit of an advantage when staking and and doing some other things, particularly with Hadron and Icosa, if it makes sense, get in before these changes. Plan to do things before the big changes. And I added the button here for the base without OA, so you can see the difference between OA and non-OA, because the OA has these higher numbers, but eventually we catch up to the OA. This the regular stakers will catch up anyways. And the OA was just smarter about it. And so when we look at that and we say this, we go, I'll go 2023. We start seeing numbers like 30,000 by the end of next year, which is that 30% increase, and then so on and so forth. You can use our sliders up here to go slide it out and see what the curve might look like. And if you don't like the calculated number, you can look at what we think the system performance shows, which is a much higher number. This is based on the Hopper multiple. There's a guy, Hopper, on Twitter who went backwards and did the mathematics to figure out how the system is likely going to operate. And then you can actually you can compare those models to see what they look like. And you can see the Hopper in blue, and then the estimated share rate down here at 128. I was almost afraid to publish this. I don't want to call this mass hysteria, cats and dogs living together,
What are the ways that you could interpret this? What are the why would that be the case?
That it's going up like this. It has to do with that ratcheting of the share rate, which is the genius of the system. Because as the share rate ratchets upwards, it ensures that people age out, right? And yes, it's going to be 15 years before Quattrocincos age out. But people who took really huge positions for 4 years, they're out after 4 years, right? They've got to get back in and pay a much higher rate, which ensures meat on the bone and distribution of T shares to other people, new people who are coming in the system. So that's kind of like, that's more like monologue about it. But looking at the chart here, I kind of think that my estimate here is wrong and low, and it will likely be somewhere in the middle between the Hopper multiplier and the estimate. And if we see significant changes in staking behaviors, it could go much higher, which is crazy, right? Because that's a 10x in 10 years, right? I mean, roughly, something like that, or not 10x. This one's a 10x, and I guess that would be 13 years, right? And this one's kind of like a 5x. So, yeah, share rate's going to go up between 5 and 10x, and the best time to have staked is right now for share, from a share perspective. But then,
question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
I just had a question from Paul. Says, any way to adjust this tool to factor in basically A-Bits and Patrick's tour in the USA? They were onboarding average people. Yeah, I guess the question could be, how could we see a mass marketing campaign play out in this chart or any other chart?
Yeah, sure. I've spoken to Patrick about that. You remember they did their 2 years in a row, right? They came up with their payout model, and we've come up with a payout model that is really close. That Patrick says looks pretty close to what he would expect as well. But that's kind of like feeling your way through it, right? Like we felt our way through. What do we think it will probably be like in the future? A more analytical way to go, which is really hard to do, and is kind of what was just asked in this question, would be, let's predict all the things that might affect share rate. And so that means you need to predict, how many people are going to end stake? Are they going to emergency end stake? Are they going to term? You've got to predict how many new stakes we're going to get in, and what they're going to be, what that staking behavior is going to be like, and then mash that all together to be able to say, yes, I think because they're going on tour, and or they did go on tour, on each day there's going to be this effect,
Right.
So yeah, we can definitely throw what ifs in there and try some different things for sure. I mean, we have the different models that are out there. But what's interesting is that for this is all layers. So anything new will just add on top of this, and the more staking activity, the more you'll see these changes go up.
Nice. What you want to go through a couple of the, I guess maybe one or two of the most popular portions of the site outside the share rate. Just give people, an idea of the other features of the site.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just a side note, I did start putting some videos up on my YouTube channel that are kind of instructionals so that people can go through and look at this stuff, right?
Yeah, man. A lot of people in the comments are thanking you for the website and just saying you're the man, and just really appreciate this data and walkthrough too.
You know who's the man? Philip Banks is the man. He's the man.
Phil Banks. Fill up Banks. I like
Philip, yeah. I'm looking to see where my envelopes are, man. He hooked me up, and I got some HEX envelopes
Oh, okay.
for tipping and stuff, man. So now I'm like, it feels geeky as hell, but I you go to a restaurant and go to dinner,
I
and
like it.
I hand them an envelope that has hex.com on it.
I'm going to add that to the list of the marketing conversation I'm going to have. Actually, that's a great idea. Wow.
Now the dream is I'm handing out $1,000 tips. The reality is I'm handing out $20 tips.
It's okay. I love it though. I mean, you really, people see an envelope that has something, nicely written on it. A lot of times they don't throw it away. They keep it, they save it, or they do something else with it. So I like it.
Yep. I appreciate that. And I appreciate everybody's comments very much. All right. Looking at the site from the beginning, just coming into it, there's some data up here at the top that you can view. I want to explain that. You can fool around with this limited chart for the share rate. This is most important to people. And so I put the short-term one right here on the screen. Just looking for more and better ways to share data out. Probably probably some of the things I would expect in the future that I would want people to come look at are things like the fire resources that'll be up here, which will I'm going to try to codify some of the approaches, put some worksheets up there, some checklists, that type of stuff, and possibly some staking calculator type activities. Staking strategies, most people probably know a bunch of this stuff already, but is my take on building out ladders and those strategies
Awesome.
with the idea to give people the idea of what they need to do. The actionable insights is another thing that I'm trying to build out further and refine. It's great to have 1,000 pages of data and charts, but reality is I can't even look at all this stuff, right? So I need to know what's what and what's when, and so I don't know what it looks like in the end, but maybe it looks more like this. Maybe it looks like a list of these are the key things that we see coming in the future, that you add with other information you're getting from Hex Daily Stats, from Hex Vision, you name the website, whether it's Gerardo or anybody else, and combining that data. But there's interesting things you can do, that helps remind me even for myself. Hey, the price is down at 3.6 right now. The last time this updated, it might be a little higher. I think we had a pump. I know it's been going up and down, but that's off the high. It's 90% cheaper, 92% cheaper. When is a better time to buy? Those types of things. Yep. Because it makes sense to pop this before I go into Hex staking data. Resources, I'm trying to add as many resources that I use as possible here. Kind of probably not the best way to populate this, but we'll get
nice.
We'll get an RHMax out here at some point. But
that would be amazing. Shout out to PulseTube for sure. The PulseTube's in the chat too. They're saying nice things about Hexfire.
Yeah, they're nice people, man. I know there's a dark side to how people act today, but nevertheless, we have the most awesome community.
We do.
Awesome. I mean, it's just great. So if people looking for or wondering about certain things, you can come look here to go click through to these different sites. And then probably the most, I think, useful thing is our Hex staking data for people. And so what is this? This is every Hex stake that exists out there. We load it up. I load it up every night after UTC midnight. it is automated, so updates several times a day. One of the cool things about this is a collaboration really with HEX Daily Stats. I can't say enough about Tagash and Kodiak and the guys who've really made that work. So this is where the data comes in from, and I go through and analyze it and add a whole bunch to it. So you can come in here and see that there's 712,000 stakes that have been made at this point. Counted there at the bottom, and then just start slicing and dicing. You know, so if I want to know, about a particular, about a particular stake, I can come grab the address, drop it in here. I can take my addresses from my, from my ladder and put them in comma separated, and just see all of your stakes. Right? Just pick somebody's ladder, and see all the stakes listed. Do it by start date, etc. Like I don't think if I click through to one, let's see what'll happen. I don't think you guys get. I don't think it changed your screen. I'm not looking at it, so, but maybe it did. So I just grabbed an address randomly.
Yeah. And
just threw that in there, so we see we have a staking order, right? And I can come over here, and it could be mine, it could be somebody else's, it doesn't matter. You know, I can come over here and say, okay, I want to put it in order by date. We've got some stakes, all right, and I want to say, okay, I see that they're ended because I have the end date, but I could have said, hey, show me only the ones that, show me only the ones that aren't GA'd, or show me the ones that are GA'd. Like this one had a good accounting done on it, you know. Show me the ones that are ended, you know, etc. And just see all of that information. And you'll see some of the specs about that stake here on one screen, the kind of T-shares that were involved, you know, etc. And you know what the current value is versus what the cost was at the time of the stake. You know, this one's just slightly underwater, you know, and just calculating that out so that it's very quick and easy to go find that. I use this quite a bit to just research, you know, new addresses that show up on HEX Whale.
Very cool. Wow. Is there anything the site doesn't do? Is there some feature that people have asked for that it doesn't do?
Yes. This is not a Web3 implementation. So this is not the kind of thing that's going and reading the blockchain directly and able to transmit, you know, transactions or anything like that. There's that. And then, you know, there's always more, there's always like a ton more things that data-wise that haven't been developed yet to be able to bring in. Like I'd like to be able to get a bird's eye view of what's happening on the Ethereum chain, for instance, and later PulseChain. And by that, what I mean is like API level type of access. But you find that what ends up happening is this: I'm digesting data that other people have already published, right? Some of it I go get myself, but what ends up happening is to be the one has the data to publish it, it becomes incrementally harder and harder, and it gets progressively more expensive. You know, so it would not be uncommon to get access to that kind of data that you got to pay, you know, $4,000 or $5,000 a month. You know.
Yeah.
And so it's not crazy talk. And I think Alex from Hadron was saying his bills were much higher. And
yeah, he's building some crazy stuff over there as we speak. Like, oof. So, summer 2023. I think a lot of projects are going to be. Hopefully, PulseChain will be out and all that too. But I think there'll be a lot of good infrastructure changes in the ecosystem that I'm very excited about in the next 6 months or so.
Yep, me too. There's so much, and I won't go through all this stuff with you guys, but there's some different charts that are here that are really cool. You can get into, like for instance, you can come look at addresses and put your addresses in, and just see how much HEX is estimated to be coming out for those addresses each year. or you can take it and drill down to the month level and go see each month.
Oh, the emergency in-state calculator. I definitely wanted to show that.
Oh yeah, we'll do that one too. We'll do that next. And then you can go down even further and go down to the day of the month and see it. And if you want to change your, change your numbers, you can change them over here as far as units. I broke something.
Uh-huh.
I'll have to fix that, see what that is. Let's go back out. All right, we'll come back to that. I'll come back to that anyways. So there's some different charts here that you can see, including estimated total supply, cost of T-shares. This one's kind of neat to see what people paid for T-shares that they're they have staked today. All the HEX daily stats stuff. I'll do a eventually. I hope maybe I'll get a video in on a bunch of this stuff. I plan to do one on this one. This is a new addition today. Which is, how we were just looking at that T-share rate chart.
Mm-hmm.
Well, somebody said, hey, that's okay, but it's harder for me to understand when rate changes are happening. And so they asked for this one. And if I bring it down to days, you can see on each individual day what the predicted change is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so it gives you an idea of when you would want to come in and do your staking behavior. Do your staking before the big changes that might occur,
So
and
cool.
So these are real big changes out in 24, whatnot, that'll happen.
Yeah.
All right.
Indeed.
So there's this charts area, and let's get over to look at what you're asking about. So I have, from a navigation perspective, people come down here and go to our go to my little thing. I'll go to home and get it. Go to my little drop down, my little thing. And what it should have here is I'll have to reset this for a second, is a list of different different pages. And one of the ones we want to go to is we go look at, like you see derivatives there, is advanced analytics. Just as an example, we'll go there. I just want to confirm you can see the HEXFire screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. So in here, you can come look at, again, more tables of data, different things that might help you. This was the share rate we looked at before. Best times to stake. This tells you kind of based on outflow of HEX. If you're trying to get your HEX out before a whole bunch of other HEX comes out, you might want to end a stake before that. You can look at OA stakes here, exactly what we think the OA has, and that's suspected, right? OA related stakes. You can look at deflationary data, kind of telling you like when is it that the first stakes will start coming out that the people can't, even if they go out Quattro Cinco, they can't get more T-shares, that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So the more nerdier people really like this into the numbers, we get into that stuff. And then this is probably another good spot for the general viewers, is if you go to the advanced staking data page. I've tried to break it up in different pieces, because here's the thing: is we get all these stakes, and we want to know all this information about them, but you can't fit it all on one page. And we've never gone through the process of building out completely what the best way is to view data.
Mm-hmm.
So it gets confusing to me, and probably to other people, to look at open stakes when I'm looking at ended stakes in certain contexts, because I want to know more. I want to know one set of data about opens and another about ended. And I can do some fancy stuff, where you can click through and all the rest. But at the moment, what I did is just broke them out. So if you wanted to see your estimated payouts, instead of it in chart form but in table form, you can come in here and you can select different select different addresses. And in this case, let's go look at the Maximus stuff, right? Trio. I put them up here as to be selectable so you can get them. And we can see that, as expected, we've got 123, 25, 32, and 37. And basically look at very similar HEX staking data that we were looking at before.
Nice.
But it's just on this page, And then other oldies but goodies I like to look at are things like, hey, which stakes are bleeding? Because I got a whole bunch of them. But some group of people started good accounting those for us, right? So if I go look today and I want to see what I think the estimated late penalty is, and I have it here, right? This is full on. There ain't that much late penalty HEX left. This used to be over $1 billion at one point. And so almost every day, somebody good accounts stakes. Now that isn't my recommendation that you do that, because I'd rather see them bleed all the way out. But the only way that these HEX penalties come out to us is if somebody good accounts the stake where it gets ended.
Right.
So if somebody wants to really deep dive in here, they can do that. And you can see the results of the good accounted ones here. You can see the actual penalties, and nukes are just fascinating. Man,
yeah.
It's just...
Yeah, I've been seeing HEX Whale bot go post some of those. Yeah,
when people just don't care to look. Like, I mean, my God, man. I mean, now I appreciate it if somebody did it on purpose. Thank you. But my God,
Wow.
Now some of the earlier ones, maybe it's not so bad. I mean, if you screwed up on the first day, like we used to see this a lot. People would think that they could end something early, and you can, right? As you put a stake in today, and as long as you get it processed and ended before the end of the day, before UTC 000, there's no penalty, right? So you can start and end a stake the same day, but you go over that time frame, you're dead.
Yeah.
So anyways, so if people really want to do this, you can peruse. And what's been happening is, as people get in to look at these and they want to know more, they just contact me and I'll add more things to it, because there's things I just don't know what people want, and I can't add everything to everything. It's there's just too much to do. So I'm just working on fine tuning it. And then you asked about this a few minutes ago. So I'm gonna look at this a little bit further, and got some changes to come in today. Somebody asked me about this. Let me see if I can get this guy to get this copy. So you can throw a stake in here or an address in here and look at the stakes for it. And this will go through and give you an estimated penalty and what your payout will be. I don't know what address I just picked, but it's some funky address that's got 3,700 stakes.
Wow.
And so that might be one of the, I don't know which address it is. Maybe somebody's familiar with it, but I can look at all the expected ends, and show these are all the ones that are going to be ended, and what their emergency end stake payout would be if they were ended right now.
Gotcha.
And so, combined with some other data, people might be interested in looking at that. It's not an endorsement for emergency end staking, because I really don't like that, even though I've done it. But I don't want anybody to get the idea this is a method to go forward. But what I was asked about is, somebody said, well, tell me about a stake that is over 50%. And what would that, what would you get more T shares? Would you get more T shares if you ended it and restaked it? So that's what I did. So we throw that address in here and I'll show you. So we took a look at the stake, and again, I'm not advocating for it, but this is what the question was. The guy wanted to know, hey, what if I end this stake? It wasn't his stake. It was an example. What if I end the stake early? All right, we served over 50%. And I restake it. What would happen? Well, if this particular stake was ended early, they would get about a 12,000 payout. About 12,400. So they still would be an ROI. It'd be a little tiny ROI, right, from the beginning. But the T shares that this stake had originally was 0.95 T shares, and they would get 1.5 T shares if they restaked Quattro Cinco. Now, at first, it's still like mind-boggling why we would consider this. But if you insert the idea of HSI stakes into your mind, all of a sudden you're like, maybe it's something for me to think about. I don't know if I'd endorse it. Because I tend to look forward, not back. So I'll do new stuff, but I don't think I did have that time, like I told you before, big payday, and I did it. But I don't think that I want to be in that business because I don't like giving up that yield. Man, I had to wait a long time for yield.
Yeah. Sure.
So if people want to look here, you can come look and see what might be, the penalties, and just verify it before you take any action, with stake or app or something else.
Gotcha. You got amazing website. I just want to make sure we get some of the questions in too, because we got a few in the chat.
Yeah, I'm sorry, dude, man. I took this an hour and a half. Like I said, we could talk about this.
No, I could talk about it for 4 hours. Seriously, like there's so much good information here. But I just wanted to bring up too. Squirrel said a while back, Godwell pump. Did you? So apparently Hex has been pumping today, yesterday. A lot of people speculated as Godwell buying. Maybe that was backed up by the address and stuff. Yeah, what do you get on that?
Yeah, I went and took a look at that. I mean, I think the evidence chain is broken. The chain of evidence is broken, whether it's Godwell or not. Well, we've got a very nice little pump going on right now. It did come off of 4 cents. I was getting a little FOMO, but we're up 10% for the day, 10.5%. And you lived through it. You remember the days where it just went up forever. Like, yeah. I mean, we had a whole year of that. So I hope for other people to experience that. Yeah, but it's inevitable that it's going to happen, right? I mean, it's so damn frustrating, right? That there has to be more buyers than sellers for it to go up. Generally, I mean, that's kind of how it works, right? The economics of it. And the only way it can go up is enough people have to be either, flooded themselves out or sold out in order that they don't have bags that they want to sell anymore. And so eventually you hit that capitulation. And perhaps we already hit that a month or two ago,
Yeah, it's been at 3 cents for a long time. And then now it looks like we broke 4. I don't know. I guess the best case scenario is we can hope that PulseChain launches coming soon, and that this it's the perfect storm of just crazy run up.
Yeah. See, I'm looking for. I'll show. I actually was talking to somebody about this. I don't know if I can show you the screen. I think I can. Let me throw this on. Somebody was talking about this morning in trading chat, and this is no lie. You can go check it. Let me show you. I'll change my screens real quick.
Sure.
So I follow, I'm not TA. I'm not a good TA guy. Let's see. I'm on StreamYard, right? So stop sharing, present. It's funny that this just happened because I just said this to the dude today. All right. We're going to see me and you for a second. Let me share that. And tell me if you guys see trading view. Did that come up?
Yeah, we got it.
All right. So I follow this idea of the golden ratio. I definitely won't bore you guys with it. Just the idea that, the Fibonacci's make a difference. And I had highlighted this morning, we were just talking about what HEX might do. And in the past, this black line is 111-day moving average. And like I said, I'm not really a TA guy, but I do notice certain things, right? That when you have averages like this 350-day and the price approaches it, I'm always looking to see whether it gets rejected or whether it confirms above it.
Mm.
And so we had gotten up to that 350-day, and then we came back down, and then we retested this 111, back in August, came back down, right? And so I literally was saying to him, "Hey, I'm looking to see what's going to happen at 4.2, 0.042, to see whether or not we'll break this. Because if we break this 111-day, I think we're on our way back up." At least temporarily. It can always come back down, right? But it's just a good sign. And the reason for that, at least with this thinking, is when you see the 350 and the 111 cross, it typically signals that we could be on our way back up into at least more sideways action, but we're past the bear. And so when you look at something like Bitcoin, and we go look at it, you can also see that these crosses, and there's too much to analyze on this, but these crosses usually mean something. And so way back here in 20, the 111 crossed the 350, and then it never came back for a long time till it started coming down. Now, does that hold true, with HEX? I don't know, but perhaps. Anyways, it's just lots of people got lots of theories.
Yeah, just on this question too, Connor had one. Does the loss of delegation, talking about PulseChain, changes the loss of delegation, change the price outlook or plan for Pulse? Yeah, what do you think the changes with BSC and going for forking ETH 2.0? Is that what do you think better short term, long term? Does it change anything for price for PulseChain?
I think it's better for everything, and I think it can only affect price positively. And so opinion, and I'm not very educated on exactly how everything's going to work on PulseChain or was going to work. I was not super excited with what I was going to get for delegating anyways. So put whatever the value is, putting 1 billion Pulse in to a validator and just like getting 0.001% or whatever it was turning out to be wasn't an income stream to me, right? So I had already been looking at, so how do I turn that into an income stream? Now, some people say go over to PulseX, sure. Maybe the new validation will be a better rate. Maybe there's some other options that'll come up. We know there's a lot of new projects. And I'm one of the guys that's like, really my play would be to swap into HEX. But so again, that HEX maxi kind of thing. Like if I had 1 billion Pulse that I was ready to swap, I'd probably, if the ratios were good, I'll swap it first day, second day into HEX. Not advice, but that's just my thinking, right? Now, why would I do that?
Yeah.
Well, because I want to generate, for the same value, I want to generate more yield to fulfill my financial goals, which are to take care of my family, contribute to my community, etc.
Yeah, most people they're really trying to get more Pulse, and I think HEX has taken a back seat in the minds of a lot of people now, just because. I mean, is it just the shiny new object price is starting lower, so they think the multiples are there? Like, how do you reconcile the new coin starting lower probably with more multiples with the things HEX can do with passive income and just the runway it has to go up?
Yep. And I think there'll be strong crosswinds in every direction at different times. But I think predominantly, there's not going to be any more Pulse, right? It'll exist, whatever it is. So you can't get it unless you trade into it. And so if you want it, that means Pulse price go up, right? And a lot of people got a lot more PulseX than they wanted, and they didn't get Pulse, and they would like to equalize. I'm kind of in that bag. I mean, I wouldn't mind equalizing the other direction and get more PulseX than Pulse. So you're going to have crosswinds in every direction. And then, of course, anybody who got lots of HEX in order to get in to get their pulse, well, they can't get the pulse unless they swap into pulse from HEX, right? It'll be pretty interesting. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to be very careful, but I'll look at my plan is to look at the ratio that I paid for my pulse in terms of HEX. And if it cost me, gross example, if it cost me, you know, one HEX per 100 pulse, and I can get equal to or more hexes for 100 pulse, I'm in. I'll make that trade. That doesn't mean I'll exit pulse completely, because I do want exposure to crazy mad gains, right? I mean, I'm not insane. I like that too, but
You love
I
Hex,
don't.
but not insane. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think they're going to be so tightly connected, right? That Hex, Pulse, PulseX, they're going to go up and down together. I mean, I know they'll diverge a little bit in how they'll go up and down, but they're all going to go up and down together. And so if I think that way, I would like to earn yield, and I'm willing to do that trade-off to get the yield.
One more question here before we wrap up. Beyond All says, what is going to happen to the block time with the new planned forking 2.0? Will PLS faster, same block time, transaction speed? Yeah, what I guess, yeah. Can you talk about anything around when the fork happens? Anything changed with doing ETH 2.0 now? Anything like that?
Yeah, my understanding about this is that yes, and I'm going off of devs who've said this publicly, whether it was Ruth or someone else on one of the other streams that I had heard, that yes, it can be tweaked. It can be tweaked to run a little bit faster, but I'm not particularly super concerned about that myself, but I know some people are. And to tell you the truth, I do like it when I use some certain chains and it's almost an instantaneous, transaction rather than waiting 20 seconds. So I get that too. But who will they make those adjustments? I don't know. I assume they will, right?
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't the devs do that? Whatever the trade-off is for optimum performance.
Stronger, smarter, faster, better price performance. PulseChain is going to be hashtag winning. And either 2 weeks from now, 2 months from now, or mid-May 2023. We don't know.
So I know. I want to make a joke. I'm just not going to make a joke about it. Because
everyone's pretty beat down right now. Hex price is up though. Maybe we can make more jokes. Hex price is up right now.
Well, yeah, so. I know. Well, the joke
still
I would
down
make
90%, but
yeah, the joke I'd make about it is just that I want it to come so bad, but I like to forget about it so I don't worry about it. But maybe I don't think, and who am I? I don't know anybody, man. I know all the same people you guys know. So all I'm thinking is, seems to me like it could happen before the end of the year. I don't know.
I don't think I don't think there's too much pressure on. How can I say this? I don't think Richard needs any more pressure as far as coming out by the end of the year. I think enough people have asked for refunds, which is hilarious too.
Yeah, I see those as well. But a lot of yes, there are some people that actually act that way and do that. I'm also an admin out in the chats in Telegram, and there are people that deliberately don't think that psyops isn't a thing. It's real, right? So if I even just for fun, I just want to screw with all you guys, I just go sign up for an API that integrates with my Excel. I just load up 10,000 stupid comments that all say the same thing, connect up with Telegram, and sit there all day pushing the button, going click, click, click every time you say something. And so about probably half that crap is just bullshit. But then there's other people. There are other people that actually do, have those comments, which is comical. But
yeah, it's you got me thinking about Augur and the prediction markets. I thought you were going to say take all those 10,000 comments and then come up with estimates and predictions for what to do with that. Did Augur ever get off the ground? Do you remember that one?
I sold that in 2018.
You saw it before they had the swap. They had the swap, and the other one was, oh my God. So many people, not speaking for myself, so many people were like, oh, I didn't realize there was this. Don't you hate that when they do the swap? That's why you stay in the rich art community. We don't have any of that crap. They'll make the new coin, and they'll be like, okay, now you have a period of time to make the swap before the other one's worthless. And you're like, no, that's not how you do this. You just killed everyone else's bags who wasn't paying attention for a few months.
It's a bait and switch for sure. Sleight of hand.
Anyways, winning greater than whining. Yes, that's true. It's true. All right, everyone. Max is going to have some lunch. Getting hungry here. Chrispyman, and saying your name makes me more hungry. Chris, I'll have some crispy chicken hopefully in there.
Get some crispy chicken.
Yes, dude. Absolutely amazing having you on. Walking through hexfire.io. Everyone was just amazed at the comment. I know I'm going to clip it out too, just like the walkthrough. I think a lot of people are going to really like just sitting down, watching it, understanding how to get this, how to take that fire hose of data, and you've separated it so well in all these different categories to be like actionable stuff. Like I can take action on this data. Like you have made a website that does that, and that's so rare and so good for the community.
I appreciate the good comments, man. And anybody has suggestions, send them along. No bad ideas. You can try them.
No bad ideas. You heard them. Yeah. Where can people get in contact with you?
You can hit me up on Telegram at Chrispyman, and then my Twitter, of course, is I showed my noobness with this, man. It's at crispy_man2. I made it as difficult as possible for people to find me.
I've seen worse. Trust me, I've seen worse.
Yeah, and then on YouTube, you can just look up hexfire.io.
Hexfire.io. Talk to me, of course. You see me on YouTube, so hit all the buttons if you haven't already. At RHMaximalist on Twitter. Follow me. Follow Chrispyman. Look out for the clips coming. I need to go through and watch the replay myself. So much good stuff.
Yeah, we can connect up too, Max. Hey, thanks for the invite. I appreciate it. And thanks for all the good word, guys. It's good stuff, man. We're going to make it. We're going to make it.
We're going to make it, everyone. You've heard it here first.
I can't wait. Wait till we get to that first 10x. And I mean the first 10x.
It's going to be great. Good things coming in the ecosystem. All right, everyone. I'll be back Wednesday with Randy Hilarski. Randy's going to come on. And
I love him, man. Wow.
A lot of people love him. Yep. He's super fun to talk to. Got a lot of good ideas and hilarious as well. Yeah.
Yeah. He makes me laugh a lot.
Yes. Should be a fun show. Yeah. Tune into the show if you got time. Everyone, with that, we are out.